Hello and welcome into the Birds of the Roundtable. Guys, we have finally made it. We are finally talking about a football game that we just watched happen. I mean, it was like a half a week ago with a weird Friday night game, but we've already got a comment coming in on YouTube, save me from the Phillies, from Eagles fan. That is what we're here for. We are going to break down our top takeaways from week one of the preseason. Talk a little bit about the joint practice with the Patriots today, and then we'll turn the page and look ahead to week two of the preseason, which is on Thursday night this week. So weird schedule. I'm ready to get to Sunday games, but I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. Joined, as always, by Dibes. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. I can tell by his eye contact he's watching the Phillies right now. Dibes, how you doing?
Well, while Trey Turner is bobbling things in the infield, we don't bobble things here talking Philadelphia Eagles. It's nice to see a lot of things translate from training camp into the preseason. Way more positives than negatives. Let's get it.
All right. Also joined by Ryan Reese. Give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Ryan was laid out in a chair just a few minutes ago. He's battling through some training camp injuries here, but he is here, going to give us 100% tonight. How are you doing, Ryan?
Well, listen. I'm a team player. That's why I'm here. And there are no days off here on Birds of the Roundtable. So let's get at it.
I mean, technically speaking, there's 6 days off on Birds of the Roundtable, but close enough. We do hard work for our 1 hour podcast, hard work of analysis all the time. And nobody works harder at it than David. Give him a follow on Twitter at PHL Eagle News. David, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great. I'm glad we can finally discuss games and also joint practice, which I think is the most telling part of every training camp. So I'm pretty excited to get into it.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. If you guys follow the feed, you got the instant reaction show from Dibes and I right after the game on Friday. And again, we'll be doing that after Thursday's game. So come hang out with us on the post-game show. But we've had a little bit of time to think on it, maybe to rewatch. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Ryan, I'll throw it to you first. What was your top takeaway from the Eagles offense against the Ravens on Friday night?
That, honestly, that Mekhi Becton is our starting right guard. He was barely in there. He had a few plays here, and then it was pretty much Tyler Steen the whole time, and he got a long look. So that to me tells me that, they're looking at Tyler Steen to see what he can do. And I think Mekhi Becton has already impressed them enough. From the transition from tackle to guard has clearly gone well enough, and obviously Stoutland is once again an amazing coach and has unlocked something in what is a very talented offensive lineman, and now looks to be our right guard.
All right, yeah, I thought it was really interesting that Becton played so little and Steen played a lot, and apparently still hobbled on the ankle a little bit. So that was surprising to me a bit, but I agree with you. I don't think Eagles fans should continue to worry about right guard. I'm not telling you Mekhi Becton's going to be great. I'm telling you that I liked what I saw from Tyler Steen and even a bit from Trevor Keegan. So I think the depth is good, even if you're taking a step back in terms of starter. So right guard, Ryan talked about just a little bit. David, give me another one. What was the takeaway that you had from the offense?
Right on cue from Brian Pumper's response, I'm actually going to praise a wide receiver outside of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and that's Johnny Wilson, man. They showed the myriad of ways they are going to use him. Right when you think he is only going to be in on running downs, they can hit you with the route over the middle, and they still haven't even showcased his 21.3 mile per hour speed yet. He was used very creatively on bubble screens, and I think he's going to be a big attribute on this offense and a big piece that has been missing over the past couple years.
All right, yeah, Johnny Wilson was definitely fun to watch as a blocker. I'd like to see a little bit more of him as a receiver.
Agreed, yeah.
Kenny Pickett had that one slant that he overthrew him, which, again, overthrowing a 6'7" guy takes some work, but I'd like to see him get a little more run as an actual receiver and see what we've got there. Definitely liked him as a run blocker. Dibes, what about you? What was your top takeaway on the offensive side of the ball?
I mean, we could talk about how none of the tight end threes are really winning their job. It's still a concern. But for me, I'm just going to piggyback off of what Ryan said. I thought it was the offensive line. in general. I thought they were sensational. And most notably, the guy that has my eye, you alluded to, Shane, is Trevor Keegan. Trevor Keegan had 27 pass blocking snaps, and he looked pretty good. He looked really solid. Like you said, Shane, I'm really excited about the depth at the interior offensive line. And I'm really excited to see how he looks moving forward. And just to piggyback off of what David said, Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson is it's clear why he's an integral part to what the Eagles want to do on offense. We saw the run blocking. I think one of the things that, big mistake-wise, the Eagles made last year was trying to be more of a dominant pass-heavy team. And I think they're trying to correct that. And I think Johnny Wilson seems like he's trending towards having a legitimate role on this team in 2024. And I think it's due to his impact to help the Eagles run game and get this offense back to being one of the best clock control teams in the NFL. The Eagles had 2 drives that went at least 15 plays and 7.5 minutes long. That's exactly what I want to see against the Patriots. And that's what we saw in 2022. And I think, long sustaining drives is the best way to help a young defense out.
Yeah, and long sustained drives are especially helpful in the preseason. You get into that second half, and I'm watching the game after halftime, and it was like back-to-back 3-and-outs by the Eagles and the Ravens, and I was like, oh man, like somebody just go on a 15-play drive and burn some of this clock because I don't want to stay up all night. But yeah, for sure, it was interesting. It was nice to be able to watch the ground game work, especially if Kenny Pickett's your quarterback. You want to see a lot of the ground game. A couple comments here. Brian says he likes Will Shipley. There were certainly some good things that we saw from Will Shipley. I thought Quentin chiming in on YouTube was happy to see the run game be successful. We've got Daniel saying, hey, everybody, happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, Daniel. You guys keep the comments coming here as we turn the page to the defensive side of the ball. So let's talk about the defense. David, I'll give it to you first this time, and I pray you steal what I know will be Ryan's answer. But what was your top takeaway from the defense?
I'm leaving him for the LBs because that's just his thing. But the 2 things I took away is, one, the pass rush needs to improve. There was a couple guys who got off the edge well, but for the most part, it wasn't very, very effective. And on the positive side, it was how disruptive Milton Williams was. He bet on himself this offseason thus far, and it could end up being a very big payday for him. I mean, he has looked really, really good. I don't know if he can give 600 and some snaps of Hall of Fame level Eagles play like Fletcher Cox did, but he is damn sure putting his best foot forward right now. I mean, he looks very, very good.
All right. So, yeah, it was a little concerning to see the Eagles play starters on the defensive side of the ball and the Ravens not really playing a lot of starters and not for it to just be Sack City. But, we'll see. A good pass rusher still loses a lot of reps, so maybe it was just a small sample size, bad luck, but that's definitely something to keep monitoring here. Dibes, I'm going to give you a chance to steal Ryan's answer too, and then I'll give him last shot here. But what was your defensive takeaway?
We had Josh Davis on last night, and he stole Ryan's, so I'm going to let Ryan have his boy. It's Keely Ringo. Keely Ringo was sensational, not for just the plays he was involved in, but just being sticky in coverage top to bottom. 5 targets, 1 catch allowed, 42.9 passer rating, 2 pass breakups, 1 in that end zone you just saw. Just sticky in coverage, making that CB2 battle that much more difficult. And he was just all over the place. I like the way he was fighting his man coming off there, matching up with the running back there. This is not even a play that the ball didn't even go his direction, but he did not give his man an inch. Keely Ringo was sensational on Friday night. I'm excited to see what we see in a couple nights. And, man, the rotation of Ringo and Rodgers, I still think it's Rodgers. Don't get me wrong. But that is going to be one hell of a battle these last 2 weeks.
All right, before I throw it to Ryan, you mentioned the cornerbacks. Let's just throw it around the table. Ryan, I'll let you go first here. starting 5 defensive backs, if you were doing this thing, how would you set up? I mean, obviously Slay is going to start for you. How would you shake out the rest of the corners and safeties?
I still go Ringo, CB2. I go Q with the nickel slot. Getting him out there, I think, is paramount. CJ Gardner Johnson, and I'm assuming it's going to be Reed Blankenship. I mean, unless Fangio loves him some, James Bradbury, but I don't see, him falling more in favor with him than Blankenship. So those would be my 5.
All right, David, what about you? How would you set that up?
I agree with everything Ryan said, except I have it as a hybrid between Rodgers and Keeley. I don't know that it's going to be one of them. I think that they've been using them in different packages on the field, and I think that might carry over to the regular season.
All right, Dibes?
I'm right there with David, not to play politician, but I think it's going to be something similar to what we see at linebacker. We're going to be talking about linebacker the rest of the night. But it just depends on matchups and what Vic Fangio wants to do. And I'm really curious to see how Cooper DeJean puts a wrinkle into all of this as well. A guy that can thrive in the slot, be a hybrid linebacker in some respects, and maybe get some time at safety. So it's all a good problem to have, but I think that's most likely your 5.
Yeah, I'm with what Ryan said. I'd like to see Ringo and then Quinyon Mitchell in the slot. And I would have Avonte Maddox would be that third safety for me. I would just almost move him to safety. He played there as a rookie. I'd like to see him get some run there. Obviously, I don't know where Cooper DeJean slots into things. He was activated off the what was it, the PUP list or the NFI list?
NFI
yeah,
list.
NFI. Yeah, one of the lists. He was activated off of that today. So, and I know he said he thinks he might play in the 3rd preseason game. So. Where he fits into that, I don't know, and we'll see, but it's interesting nevertheless. So, okay, Ryan, I'll let you talk about Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
Yes.
Tell me what you saw from Trotter.
Please. Listen, the Axeman did not disappoint. And seeing him out there, first and foremost, was a treat for Eagles fans. But then to see him not only just be involved in the play, that play right there where he stayed with it, he engaged his blocker. He got off of it, kept with the play, and got himself the sack. But you could see the instinct. He knows where he needs to be. It's not the game. The game in the moment isn't too much for him. And what's encouraging is the fact that these were his first reps. These were his first plays in series, and it's only going to get better for him. And I honestly am a lot more encouraged after seeing this game. I just thought he came in there and blew away expectations. Ones that are theoretically already high, but after the high draft, 5th rounder and the lack of talent in the linebacking room. It was nice to see that he stood up and shined.
All right, yeah. I don't know. It feels like the Eagles might have some linebacker depth because I thought Nakobe Dean looked good as well. Like there were some struggles in coverage. I think he's been overshadowed by Trotter, and rightly so. Trotter played really well, but I thought Nakobe Dean played well as well. So I did not think Zach Bond looked very good, but that's maybe a discussion for another time. So any other thoughts that you guys want to get out there about the first preseason game before we transition to the joint practices?
Can we go to some comments real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Comments. Bruce chimes in. Do you feel Kenny Pickett is good enough to be our backup quarterback?
Yeah,
no.
Have to be.
I mean, good enough in the regard that if you have to play a backup quarterback for more than a game or two, your ship is sunk anyways. 2017 Eagles notwithstanding. But no, I mean, he's not a good quarterback. He's just not.
Listen, he did not look great. I'll give you that. But I'm not going to judge his entire career off of, half of a preseason game. He's been in this league. He has won in this league. And he has won with not the greatest talent. So should he have to come in and him playing with all of this talent to which he did not play with at all the other day, I'm perfectly fine, considering you should hopefully never see the field. And if God forbid he does, it's in mop-up time, and it will be fine. So I'm okay with it.
I was not impressed. We called it during halftime and post-game show. The dude has a noodle arm, and he was staring down pressure. He did not look good, man. The ball has zero zip out of his hand. Tanner McKee all the way should be getting the reps as the number 2 quarterback on this team. Quentin says to help the pass rush, there's an edge rusher in New York that might be available via trade. Is Howie Roseman not the winner of the week? Like we can pretty much put that number 1.
It would be hilarious if he traded like a 5th round pick or something to the Jets or actually just be like, hey, we'll give you the 4th round pick back, but one of the things that was conditional to making it a 3rd was playing time. And so then they just play him a whole lot and they end up getting a 3rd back from the Jets. Would be hilarious.
That condition would transfer to the new team no matter who that new team is. So
is that official?
I mean, it was just based on playing whatever percentage of the snaps.
Okay. I haven't seen that. Okay. Quentin says, when is Cooper DeJean expected back? He's hoping for week 3 of the preseason, so they'll probably ramp him up pretty soon. Trotter's going to start by season's end, says Brian. Quentin says, good to hear the linebackers look good, man. We're about to touch on the joint practices and talk a lot about that. It would be huge if Jalix was ready to play and play that Van Ginkel role this season instead of next season. He looked good. Let's talk about Jalix Hunt as a guy that I think his athleticism popped. We were kind of questioning, not in the most positive light, like who's the best edge rusher that can drop back into coverage, and we will see that in this defense. Jalix Hunt looks like he can do it at a pretty decent level. So I thought like Jalix Hunt was like a B+ on Friday night, and that blew away my expectations because I didn't necessarily fully buy into that hype that we were hearing from training camp. Any thoughts on Jalix Hunt?
He should be the best in coverage. He was a former defensive back. He's fast. He played safety, I believe, and I don't think he's going to play that Van Ginkel role. I think that's more like what the comment there is. I think it's more Nolan or even Zach Bond in some hybrid role as well. But yeah, I think Jalix is a very good talent. There's room for optimism with him for sure.
Yeah, same. I mean, he should be the best dropper into coverage, and that's something Fangio is going to do a lot. I had the exact number when I recorded with Johnny earlier, but I think it was like 14 different times an edge rusher dropped out into coverage in that game, and that's not counting Zach Bond, who dropped like 50% of his snaps
half the night,
and rushed like half the time, but he's technically not an edge. I don't know what he is, but so that you're going to see that a lot. So them being able to do that is going to be a big deal. And yeah, I mean, comment here from Brian says, I'm telling you, I saw Nolan play slot corner. That's what the sack that Nolan Smith got. He started out, I believe it was a nub set with 2 tight ends offset on the right, Nolan Smith at the top of the screen. So he's walked out like Hassan Reddick was at times last year over a slot receiver. But then he timed the snap count and crept in and blitzed. So you'll see that. You're going to see some different things. We'll see if they're able to pull it off, because I still think Nolan Smith looks atrocious in coverage, but hopefully he's able to figure that out a little bit.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, let's transition to the joint practices. And candidly, I will say I did not follow the joint practices very much, so I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Today was my kids' last day before they went to school, so we've been going to restaurants and swimming and doing all the last day of summer things before they start back in the morning. So I'll rely on you a little bit for this, but I do want to share, there was a tweet that I saw going around from Zach Berman, who said that this is the most Kellen Moore-ish day of the summer for the Eagles. Different packages, more motion, also seeing adjustments from the line, which is nice because you expect vanilla in the preseason, but it was still tremendously just shotgun, not a lot of motion. And again, I don't think you're going to see that a ton in the preseason to begin with, but it's good to hear you were seeing that in joint practices. So I liked seeing that. I heard the defensive line wrecked the Patriots offensive line, but Dibes, I'll throw it over to you first. What stood out to you from joint practices today?
Yeah, Brian says Eagles O-line today was not good. And Philly sports goes boom. The 2024 Phillies are officially the 2023 Eagles. Oh my gosh. We've also got Phil in the house. What's going on, Phil? And for me, it's sorry, Ryan. It's the improved play of the Eagles linebackers. And reportedly there was a couple picks during practice, one by Trot Jr., who continues to really have a nice week here of preseason and training camp. He picked off Jacoby Brissett while trying to get the ball from KJ Osborne. And the other one came from Zach Bond, which was off a deflection or a tip pass or something like that from Nakobe Dean. So that's my take, is I've been pounding the table on these linebackers and wanting improved play. Who's going to be the guy that steps up? I mean, Nakobe Dean, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., dare I say Devin White, like they all, I think, are playing above expectations. And that is just massive for this defense to, get back to the 2022 defense, which was, one of the best in terms of, turnover differential, third best in 2022. The Eagles were sixth worst last year. And I just like we said, I think we see a huge rotation of the four linebackers on this team, but it's been a lot of positives these last week or two. So I want to see that continue on Thursday night.
I did read that Nakobe Dean took the first team reps alongside Devin White. So interesting to watch. We'll be interested to see how that shakes out. Ryan, what was your big takeaway from the joint practices?
So from what I was reading, it looked like Jalen Hurts was just abusing the Patriots defensive backs. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. I mean, everybody was getting into the action there, catching touchdowns left and right. Just, great play after great play. And Jalen is just being smart and accurate. That's all you can hope to continue to see so far in this training camp. Not only is it, against his own team, but now against the Patriots, no interceptions.
Yeah, it's good to hear that Hurts and AJ and Devontae look good, because I'm not sure we're ever going to see them in the preseason. So sure. I'm glad they're at least looking good there. David, you said you got to see a little bit today. What were you seeing?
Hurts' ball placement was super impressive. I mean, he was throwing dimes everywhere, man. I'm sure some of the clips the Eagles have released, I think everybody's seen the Saquon wheel route, which was incredible play there for a touchdown. He also had that throw to Devontae Smith, but the more impressive side of that was Devontae Smith just abusing. He just put that defensive back on skates with that. That was just incredible. The few things I saw that I noted, Bradbury was flagged for holding and gave up a touchdown, which was no bueno. Keely Ringo was as sticky as it gets. I mean, he was amazing. And even the passes that he did give up, they were highly contested. He's definitely not giving up that starting role without a fight. So I kind of why I kind of hedged my bets there and said I think they'll be used in a hybrid situation to start the season there. And I was impressed with Darian Kennard. It looked like he played a lot of guard today, but they suddenly, like Dibes alluded to earlier, they suddenly have a lot of depth there in the IOL with Keegan and whoever loses between Becton and Steen. But I would be more concerned of who's the fourth tackle if it's not Becton. If he's your right guard, who's the fourth tackle now?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Who's the third tackle?
Fred Johnson.
Oh, well, we need a better third tackle. That's a big concern. So
move him to fourth and get a third.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So, any other thoughts on joint practices as a whole before we throw it ahead to the preseason? Dibes, what do you have?
My take is not even what happened at joint practice today, but what might happen on Thursday, and that's the injury to J.J. McCarthy. And I know the Patriots have our stud in Drake May that didn't play a lot in week 1, but I'm sure they're probably second guessing how many snaps he gets in week 2, because that just sucks for J.J. McCarthy, who actually had a strong debut, played better than expected, and the Patriots, we'll talk about it in just a second, have a lot of options at quarterback. So I think they need to kind of second guess how much time he gets on Thursday.
And if I could add about Pickett, I know everybody kind of was down on him earlier, but he apparently, I didn't see him, but apparently he had his most promising day of practice of the whole season. They said that he looked really good. He had a really nice deep ball that he connected with John Ross on.
What?
So, yeah, I haven't seen the video. But, yeah, that I got that from a New England Patriot beat writer on there. I tweeted out later, but yeah, he said that Pickett looked pretty good, and McKee, I think his first pass was picked off, and then he had 2 receptions, one of them to Aeneas Smith. So he's clearly playing with third stringers and stuff at this point.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the preseason game. Preseason game is on Thursday night. I forget the time. I think it's at 7. Regardless, it's Thursday night. You can join us for halftime show, post-game show, during halftime and right after the game. But let's talk about what we're looking forward to, what we're going to be watching for in the preseason. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. David, I'll throw it to you first. What are you looking for with the Eagles offense this week?
Well, I think Nick has done a lot of things differently this offseason, and I think that'll continue this week by playing some starters. I think people were excited to try to see some play a few snaps in Baltimore, but I do think that they'll get on the field. He has said all season he's changing up the way things are done a little bit, and I do think that the offensive players will get on the field. So I would think that'll be a pretty exciting, I don't know how many drives, maybe 1, maybe 2. But I think that'll be very exciting for everybody to get to see them on the and I think it's on the NFL Network, so everybody can watch it all across the beautiful United States.
All right, so starters playing would be interesting. I won't lie, I was disappointed after hearing a report starters were going to play to see Kenny Pickett roll out there on the first drive, but I was also a little relieved because I don't want to see a guy get hurt in the preseason, so I have mixed feelings about that, but got a comment here saying there was a lot less vertical passing, asking if that was an overcorrection. I will say on that, the Eagles don't have somebody that can get separation, nor could Kenny Pickett throw the ball downfield. So I don't know if that's an overcorrection so much as it's something to watch. If you see that with Jalen Hurts out there, then it's maybe something to be looking at, but I wouldn't be concerned about it right now. I think that was more personnel
related as well.
Yeah. All right, Dives, offense, what are you looking for Thursday night?
Yeah, I took this more as like matchups to watch, guys who are going to be out on the field the most. And the guy that I'm looking at is a guy named Jeremiah Farm Jr. He's a guy that has a lot of versatility and a guy that's going to give this interior offensive line for the Eagles some fun matchups. This guy is, filling in, not necessarily for him, but the Patriots are trying to replace Christian Barmore up front, and Farms is kind of in that same light of like a Milton Williams, a backup that's a breakout candidate that should see a huge rise in playing time. He was a problem against the Carolina Panthers in week 1. He was he had the second best grade on the Patriots per PFF. And he had a sack. He drew 2 holding penalties on back-to-back plays, and he plays all over the place. Like I said, he had 9 snaps at right defensive tackle, 10 on the edge at both spots, 2 as a nose tackle. Keep an eye out for this guy, Jeremy Farm Jr., and the pressure he's going to put on this, backup interior offensive line for the Birds. I'm excited what we saw in week 1. With that offensive line, I just want to keep seeing that position grow in Jeff Stoutland, I trust.
All right, so watching the interior offensive line again, seeing how they handle that. Ryan, what are you looking for from the offense?
Yeah, I want to see continued kind of wide receiver play. I'd like to see Johnny Wilson get the ball a little bit more. Just didn't really kind of go his way, but he certainly was showing himself as a prolific blocker. But yeah, I'd like to see kind of him get involved, Anais Smith, some of these other guys to kind of figure out, the rest of the wide receiver core here. I also kind of want to figure out, tight end. Will Albert ever show the hell out? I'll ask that until the day he's no longer on this team. So,
I loved I loved last week that sequence where he dropped back-to-back passes.
Yeah, that was real good for his quest on making the team. So,
yeah, for me, I think I want to watch Christian Gonzalez. I mean, he doesn't play for the Eagles, but I had Christian Gonzalez ranked really highly as a defensive back last year. He was my CB1 in the draft. I thought he looked really good until he got injured. And I mean, I would assume you're going to see him play a decent amount in the preseason. And so I doubt maybe he gets a series with AJ and Devontae out there. I don't know on that, but I think you'll see him play more than a series. So I'm interested to see, Johnny Wilson, John Ross, some of these guys go up against Christian Gonzalez, a guy that I think is a really good corner, but we still haven't seen it a lot in the league. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on those guys trying to earn that wide receiver 3 spot going against a guy that I think is a really good corner. I mean, they had to deal with Nate Wiggins in week 1, which is, first-round talent, really fast guy. We'll see how he pans out in the league. So it's not a cakewalk for these receivers, these backups going against these highly drafted guys. But that's what I'm going to be keeping an eye on.
That's a good one.
All right, well, let's flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. Ryan, what are you going to be watching for when the Eagles are on defense?
I mean, come on. Do we have any question? Bam. Doing another Axeman Jr. I'm looking for him to get another sack, to dominate, to really cement himself as somebody who needs to be considered for some serious playing time at the linebacker position.
All right, so looking for getting the Trotter Jr. sack, the axe celebration, getting him onto the field some more. I knew that would be your answer. I just thought I wouldn't make you wait till last this time.
I appreciate that, buddy.
Yeah, anything I can do to help. Dipes, defensively, what are you keeping an eye out for?
Oh my gosh, this one's easy for me. If everybody knows me, I scout everyone, and the guy that I thought was one of the biggest boomer bust picks last year, went in the 6th round, Joe Milton, man. Joe Milton is a dual threat quarterback. He finished 4 of 6 passing, 54 yards, 22 yards on the ground. He had a touchdown, a passer rating of 134.7 in week 1. He flashed that escapability. He flashed that big playability. And he looked comfortable in the pocket. He looked patient. He made good decisions with the football. He threw out rope to Jaquan Jackson for a touchdown. This guy is fighting for backup quarterback role for the Patriots. I'm excited to see this Eagles front 7 take on Joe Milton. They had Josh Jackson to limited yards, 4 of 12 passing for like 62 yards. Not much production there. But Joe Milton, man, I'm excited to watch this Eagles defense and especially pass rush take on Joe Milton.
All right. David, what about you?
Well, I wrote down 3 things, and I'm lucky I did because the first 2 got snagged right.
Well, hold on. Let me go real fast. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, do it. I had the Eagles pass rush versus Joe Milton for every reason that Dives just said. I mean, the pass rush has looked a little shaky, and I was curious to see, I'm looking forward to that battle. On the defense, I was looking for the progression of the linebackers, specifically Trotter and Dean, and even Ben Van Sumeren. Specifically, Dean and Trot, they're both young. They're under team control, and it would be huge if they could contribute meaningful snaps this year. And even if they don't develop into the starters this year, if they could be your starters going forward, because the other guys are on 1-year deals, man. I mean, that would be huge. But to take something new, I guess I'll still go with right guard. The Steen versus Becton. You can throw in Keegan. I don't know, but I'm not 100% sure they know what is the right thing to do there. I mean, I think Steen got a lot of snaps in that game because he hasn't had any in camp because of his injury with his ankle. Becton looked good against the run, but so did Steen. They both struggled in pass pro to a degree. So that would be the other. I mean, I think that's the biggest looming starting position that could affect the way the season unfolds.
All right. Is there anything on the defensive for the Eagles defense you're going to be specifically looking for? Did Ryan and Dibes steal all your answers there?
The linebackers, and then if I had to pick someone else, the pass rush, and then lastly, probably would be the battle between Keeley and Isaiah Rodgers. I think they're both going to get a lot of snaps, and I'm not convinced that there will be a designated starter there. Even Quignon played some outside snaps at the practice today, so. But I do agree with what you said earlier. I would like to see Maddox at safety. I would like to see him specifically at safety, like the whole game. Like however many snaps he plays, just leave him out there and see what you have.
Has he played any safety this preseason?
He has, yeah.
Who's that, Maddox?
Yeah.
Yeah, he played safety against the Ravens, and that's one of the ones I was going to say. I'm interested to watch Maddox. I would just exclusively play him at safety. You know he can play slot cornerback. But he's like 6th on the list of corners that you want, but you're thin at safety, and he's done it a little bit. So I'd like to see that some. The guy I'm specifically going to be watching, though, is Zach Bond, because I thought Zach Bond was the 5th best linebacker that the Eagles played on Friday night. I thought, Trotter and Dean both looked better than Bond. I thought Ben Van Sumeren looked better than Zach Bond on Friday night. Now, granted, Ben Van Sumeren's going against a different quality of guy in the fourth quarter, but Zach Bond's interesting because the Eagles signed him like day one of free agency. It's like Saquon, boom, 30 minutes later, it's like, and we got Zach Bond. And immediately Zach Bond was like saying things about, he really just, excited to come just rush the passer, and you had some Saints fans saying like he was misused in New Orleans. They tried to make him an off-ball linebacker, and he should just be a pass rusher. And you think, okay, that's the move. And then Vic Fangio has a press conference. He's like, oh yeah, he's going to be an off-ball linebacker, and he didn't look great at that, if I'm being honest. So I'm interested to see how that shakes out. I mentioned that he didn't get the first team reps today in camp, although apparently they shuffled guys in and out a lot, but I'd like to see Bond. I would like to see Nakobe Dean or Jeremiah Trotter Jr. win that spot, but I would like for it to not be by default because Zach Bond's struggling. So I'd like to see Bond play well. I'd still like to see him get beat out, but I'll be watching him for sure.
It just feels like that position's going to be fluid for the foreseeable future. Like, that's just how I feel.
Yeah. All right. Anybody have anything else they're going to be watching that they want to shout out that they didn't get a chance to?
I would like to see Quignon Mitchell hold on to the ball on Thursday night. That would be nice. No, but seriously, like I want to see more Quignon Mitchell. I thought, the click and close, the instincts, the route anticipations, all there. I just want to see more Quignon Mitchell just being his dominant self.
I would like to see Jake Elliott stop hitting uprights and make field goals the first time around. That would be nice.
How about Britton Covey making, instead of 4 Ravens players miss on a punt return, let's have 5 Patriots miss a tackle on Thursday night. That'd be nice.
Just go ahead and house that thing. Don't get tripped up by the... I don't know whether you record that tackle for the punter or the Eagles guy that ran into him from behind, but it's a joint effort.
Yeah. I'm just looking to see if the same dominance from joint practice carries over into the game. And that nobody gets hurt.
Yeah.
We're not going to see nearly the same amount of pre-snap motion or any of that stuff. Don't expect that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to about do it for this episode of Birds of the Roundtable. Hopefully you guys enjoy these shows every Tuesday night. We will go live on Twitter and YouTube at 8 o'clock to break down the previous week's game, to talk about the next week's game. It'll get uploaded onto podcasting platforms later on in the week. But before we get out of here, let's throw it around the horn for final thoughts and plugs. Dibes, lead us off. Tell the people where they can find you, what you got going on.
Thursday night, man, halftime, post-game. I'm excited to talk more Eagles. Our last one was a huge success. We had like 500 viewers at one point. And guys, if you're watching, comment with us. We do, grades and player of the game and different fun things like that. Eagles game in 3 words or less. So make sure you follow, make sure you comment, make sure you like, and help us grow this thing. And we'll see you on Thursday night.
All right. Yeah. Make sure you head over to the Eagles Pin Pull Twitter account at Eagles Pin Pull. Give us your 3-word reactions. That's a lot of fun on the post-game show. We only had one last week. It was a really good one, though. So go check those out right after the game ends. Ryan, plug your stuff. Any final thoughts? The floor is yours.
Yeah, listen, like I said, I'm glad that we're actually talking about live football. May not be the highest quality just yet, but we're getting there. We're only a few weeks away. So, as far as me, Mondays, 6 o'clock Football Smack Talk show. Mondays, 9 o'clock, Party on Broad. Obviously, every Tuesday, 8 o'clock, Best Eagles show, period. Birds of the Roundtable. And then, of course, don't forget every Sunday at 8 o'clock with that guy up there, Dabs. We'll take it on the college football world. We're going to be talking about week 0. We're going to be talking about maybe some tight end prospects. And basically, we just talk about Eagles-centric prospects and college football landscape. And, we'll kind of all tie it together. So check us out.
All right. Just to be clear, just for clarity's sake, is it the football that's not very high quality right now, but will be in a few weeks, or is it us talking about the football that's not very high quality right now?
Football. It's obviously, we're always at a high quality.
Yeah, we're always on we don't need a preseason. We're always on our A game.
Yeah, exactly. We're year round, baby.
All right. I agree. David, plug your stuff, man. You got any written stuff coming out? You plug that. Tell us your final thoughts. The floor is yours.
You can find everything at PHL Eagle News. Everything I write, I post there. And I encourage everybody to go to the Eagles Pinpool Network and leave those 5-star reviews, man. We got, 6 shows a week right now? Is that right?
Yeah, so we've got 6. Well, we've got 5 a week. The 6th show will launch at the end of August alongside football. But we put out a graphic the other day. You will get 6 shows a week on the Eagle Pinpool Network, whether you're a film nerd, a football noob, anything in between. We've got a show for you. Post-game show, Chalk Talk with me and Mark, which is going to break down other NFC East teams' games. Birds of the Roundtable on the Shane page. Armchair Scouts, which will launch in a couple of weeks, previewing college football action, and then Eye on the Enemy with John Stolnis for preview later in the week. So, be sure you're following along with all of those.
Shane, that's next week, man.
Is it? Yeah, I couldn't remember as I was talking if it's next week or 2 weeks.
We had the same argument.
Same thing happened last night.
Yeah, it's next week.
So next a week away.
Yeah, next week. So if you want to watch that show live, it will be after Birds of the Roundtable on Tuesday nights. But it will go in the podcast feed on Thursday, so we don't flood you with 3 shows in 12 hours between this, that, and my show with Johnny. But you'll get it either way. We'll kick that off next week. That's crazy.
I know, it just snuck up on us like crazy, man. This summer went fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And this show went fast as well. But that is going to wrap it up for this preseason week 1 edition of Birds of the Roundtable. Be sure you're following these guys. Dibes is at Mr. Crockpot. Ryan is at Philly Sports PSA. David is at PHL Eagle News. I am at Shane Half NFL, and we will catch you guys next time.